excited, right? All right, hang on, share. Why do I always have a hard time? Okay, there we go. All right, where is it?
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what Josiah said. Josiah. As soon as he said his name, I'm like, you gotta be. Anyway, moving
Yeah.
on.
Moving on. Yep. Moving right along. Next.
Right, moving
Yeah.
right along. Okay, so
Next.
tonight I really wanted to share some recipes with you guys, just for your solitary practice. And these are recipes I use. Some of them are ancient, they're very old recipes. So I just thought this would be fun, something a little bit different. So we're gonna go over these main like six things that you can make. So I'm sorry, I just had a total brain fart. So tinctures, syrups, oxymels, sprays, salves, and menstruums. And so I'm going to explain what each of those are, how to make them, and then give you recipe ideas. And then I'm going to go over just some general plants that are easy to come by that are fun to use and some fun history. Okay, so a tincture. So a tincture is basically like you see these little 2 ounce glass bottles with the droppers. Usually it's a concentrated tincture, not always. But what it is a strong extract. It's made by dissolving the substances in alcohol, and it's often used in consumable spells. Now, sometimes there's not going to be a full dissolution. You may still have herb in there, but a tincture is very strong. So when you think tincture, think very high concentrate. So, as an example for this, a psychic booster tincture that you could make before doing any kind of divination or before going to sleep, if you want to do like visitation dreams, is this mugwort tincture. So, you would put a dropper full under your tongue about 15 minutes before a divination or 15 minutes before going to bed. And it's very simple. You would take a quart sized jar, you would fill half that jar with about an 80 proof alcohol. So a vodka is what I would recommend. So fill half of it with vodka, 80 proof or higher, and then add equal parts, like a quarter ounce of mugwort, clary sage, cinnamon, and peppermint. And then I would shake that. I would let it sit for about a week, and then boom, you have a psychic booster or dream booster tincture. Very simple. That was just an example for this one. Okay, syrups. Everybody knows what a syrup is. It's a thick liquid condiment. It's used often in consumable spells. And so, for an example, I actually have two examples here. A lot of people have tried or heard of rose petal syrup. And rose petal syrup is not just for like romantic sexual love, it can be for family love, friendship, anybody that you share kind of a love bond with. And so, this is a little bit, I wouldn't say complex, but it takes longer. It's just more time consuming because you're going to end up taking your ingredients and simmering it on low for at least an hour. And the more you make, the longer you're going to simmer it. So if you do the recipe I gave you, which is like just 2 cups of either fresh petals or 1 cup of dry, making sure they're organic, right? Make sure they're organic, and then you're going to add in that three quarter, my God, you guys, what a day. 3/4 cup sugar, 3/4 cup water, and you're going to simmer that. The more you do, like if you were doing a double recipe, it's going to have to go at least 2 hours for the simmer. But the longer you simmer, the thicker it's going to be. I wouldn't simmer it more than 4 hours max. Then you're going to refrigerate it for at least one night before you use it. Now, this is also good, not just on pancakes, but pound cake, and you can mix it with chocolate. And if you want to make a syrup that is for sex, like for, before you're going to have sex, you're trying to get somebody in the mood, make a Damiana syrup, or, you add it to chili. So a Damiana chili is great for sex, right? So Damiana is made the same way: 2 cups fresh, 1 cup dry, with oh my God, you guys, 3/4 cup sugar, 3/4 cup water, and you're gonna simmer it, let it sit overnight, and then make some chili and mix it in your chili. I call it sex chili. So it stimulates all the sex energy. All right, oxymels. So this is more of like an ancient remedy. It was very popular in Greek times. They used to call it acid and honey. So it's used in consumable spells now. So acid and honey is an oxymel. You're basically going to take your jar. It's equal parts of vinegar, honey, and then your herb infusion. So you're going to fill that up half vinegar, half honey, add your herbs. This an oxymel will last forever. Seriously, it's going to last at least a year plus if you keep it in the fridge. If you have a storage cabinet, it would probably last a year or two unrefrigerated. But oxymels have a very long shelf life because of the vinegar and honey. So this is like if you're going to be doing consumable spells with oxymels, you're going to be needing to use pretty sweet herbs. I would only use an oxymel for non-consumable works, but everybody's different. I know people that use them for consumables, but I mean, it's going to keep. So if there's a spell or something that you do all the time, I mean,
Oh,
I would do a big oxymel jar. Just
and
that way
wash your
you.
hands from playing with the poops.
Okay. Sprays. Everybody knows what a spray is for the most part. I call it a shower of tiny drops. So two kinds of sprays, a room spray and a throat spray. So the recipe example I'm giving you here is consumable and it's pet friendly too. So here's a picture of agrimony. You can find agrimony growing wild. So it's also called five finger grass. And agrimony is great for a couple of things. It's very protective. It has associations to Hera. So if you do Hera work, it also removes obstacles. You know, it's an obstacle remover herb. So you can make a room spray. I have made the throat sprays, and I can tell you the throat sprays have like a peachy green taste, but this is actually very pet friendly. So like I had the dogs, so I would use this when I was doing like I would make an agrimony spray to cleanse things in the house, like clean things, because it's also called the werewolf plant because it protects against people who act like predators. So very easy to make. Take a 4 ounce spray bottle. You're going to add about an ounce of the herb, dry herb, and then the rest is going to be alcohol because that's going to preserve it. And I would keep it refrigerated. But it is a very good cleanser. It's good for a room spray, and you can also use it as a throat spray. So that was my example for sprays. Salves. Everybody's used a salve at one time or another, I think, maybe. So with salves, they're a little bit, I guess, I hate using the word complex. They're just more involved, I guess. So with a salve, you're going to need a double boiler or something similar. So before I got a double boiler, I used the pan method. I would take one pan, fill it quarter way with water, and then set another empty pan inside of it. And that was my pan method. And basically, wax to oil ratio here is 1 to 4. So I like beeswax pellets. They melt nice. They're smooth. And I like olive, sweet almond, jojoba, or avocado oils for salves. So it's 1 part wax, 4 parts oil. You're going to put that in your pan. You're going to heat it until it's melted, and then you're going to add your herbs. Then you're going to pour that into tins and you're going to refrigerate it, allowing it to cool at least for one night overnight. Now, the two examples I gave you here, wormwood for divination. Wormwood is like right up here. You guys can't see me. Why am I pointing? Anyway, wormwood is those first two plants on the left side of the screen. It kind of looks like pot, but it's not. You have to get up close and you'll realize it's not pot. Mandrake root, everybody knows what that looks like because of the Harry Potter movies. And then May-apples, which are right there on the bottom. So wormwood salves are great for divination. Mandrake root, which is also called gallows root, sorcery root, or Satan's apple, is great as a topical salve too. Now, mandrake root will give you a bit of a high feeling as a salve, so you need to use it very lightly, and I would just dab it on pulse points. But if you're doing work with Diana, Hecate, or Hathor, if you're doing fertility work, wealth work, attraction, or beauty work, this is a very good salve to use. You can use May-apple interchangeably, but May-apple is a little bit more toxic, so you're going to use less. Any questions so far? All right. So, menstruum. So here's a diagram of what a menstruum looks at like. And the only reason I'm mentioning menstruum is number one, I knew Lisa would be here. Number two, I wanted to talk about opium and I wanted to talk about dandelion wine, and you usually go through a menstruum process to make. So this is opium on the side. It's usually pink with purple throats. When you're harvesting poppies, you never want to break through the membrane. That's why I had that little diagram on top there where it shows him making a very careful incision. And what people do is they tincture that through extraction, right? And then they'll take the poppy seeds and put it in a strong Everclear. This is so like I used to use wild lettuce opium, and it does have an effect on the system, but it's a very easy way to make your own tonic through the menstruum process. So dandelion wine, same thing. You're going to use the menstruum process for dandelion wine. I would tell you, okay, so here's a funny joke. And Amber and Sherry, you guys are both in the room. Do you guys remember when Crystal was married to Joel and Joel said he used to make dandelion wine? Do you guys
Yes.
remember?
Yes.
I think he basically was going outside, picking dandelions and then throwing them in a bottle. And I don't know what he was
That is
doing.
true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to sell it. And then he was trying to sell it. So dandelion wine needs to sit 5 to 10 years. After 5 years, it is going to taste kind of like a silky honey, but after 10 years is when it's best. That's when it tastes like a port. It has a sweet, it has a smooth texture or consistency in the taste. So, um, dandelion wine, if you're going to make it the right way, you're going to make it through the menstruum process. So, opium, poppy, dandelion wine. I mean, this is stuff that you guys probably aren't going to do, but I'm throwing it out there as a process just so you know the information. And before we jump into plants, I do want to point out that the seasons are very important. So if there's been a very dry season and you go to harvest, dandelions or, poppy or whatever, those are going to be very strong. The drier the season, the stronger the harvest. The damper the season, the weaker that herb or that plant. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to go over grows wild and you can harvest it in wild settings. But if it's been a dry season, great. If it's been a damp season, you might want to wait because it's not going to be as strong. And so I wanted to point that out before I jumped into plants. Anyway, oh, I wanted to give a couple of other little examples here. So back in the day, they used to make a chew or a spit or a snuff out of mullein leaf. So it gives a small high. They used to make a powder out of it, and it was really a snuff, or they would put it in their cheek. Like, do you guys remember that? Does anybody remember the cheap tobacco and like the men they would like be spitting every 5 minutes? Because
Yes.
I haven't seen that in years and years, but that used to be a big thing, right? Like, do you guys remember that?
My
Uh,
ex-husband used to chew. That's so gross. I hated it.
so gross. I dated a guy, Terrence. Remember when I was dating Terry?
Yes.
Terry used to chew. It was disgusting. And then he would try to kiss me, and I'm like, ew.
It
Like,
Yep,
does.
me
it's
too.
so gross.
It comes in like a tea bag now, like a weird. My nephew and my brother-in-law do it. It comes in a weird tea bag. It's not loose. At least what they do is not loose. I don't know if they
Really?
still. Yeah, it's
I
gross.
didn't know they
Yeah,
still even.
it's like
I
little
have.
pouches. They take these little pouches and put them in there. So it's
So
like,
they still make them. Wow.
yeah,
I'm
yep.
surprised because it's so gross. And how do they even have teeth after a couple years of doing that?
Oh,
How do you even have
I
teeth
don't
over
know.
there?
So gross.
Terrence still had teeth, and I was just thinking those fucking teeth are just gonna. You're gonna wake up one day and they're gonna be on the pillow,
Well, and
because
the grossest thing is my ex-husband used to spit in a water bottle, a plastic water bottle.
oh
And I was cleaning out underneath the bed, and there were like five like spit bottles underneath the bed, and I was like,
oh my
"Oh my
god,
god, so
that's
gross."
awful.
Yeah.
Well, mullein leaf used to be a spit. And that was like a big thing back in the day. And it's also because it gave the individual a kind of a small high. Now, you can also make, when I'm going to go over some of my favorite plants that you guys can grow very easily or find in the wild. And one of the things, if you're not into making tinctures or sprays or any of that, that's fine. I like, you can make teas or even sachets. Just put these dry herbs in a little muslin bag and leave them in drawers or underneath
Yeah.
your bed. And so this one is for passionate love. So this is like more romantic love. You would take red roses, damiana, orange peel, because it's an attractant and it stimulates, basil, catnip, chamomile, gardenia, which by the way, gardenia is edible. It actually does taste pretty good, jasmine, and lavender. And I would do equal parts of each. So like maybe an eighth of an ounce of each and put all of that into a sachet or a tea. So that is a passionate love recipe. That's a pretty old recipe. It's for romance, love, you got a little bit of sex in there. So I just wanted to share that with you before I jumped into the plants themselves. All right, the first plant that I like is betony. So here is a picture of betony. Very pretty. You'll see this growing wild on the roadside as you're driving down the road. It's also called bishop's wort. It has associations to Jupiter, Hercules, Demeter, Athena. So if you're Hellenistic or polytheistic, you might use this herb in offerings. Interesting side fact with betony, it has been used in clinical, like holistic settings for people that feel disconnected, that are kind of going through soul retrieval work, and UFO abductees. There's a big thing on betony and the use of betony with UFO abductees. So what does betony do? Betony is a strengthening herb. It's a cleansing herb. It's protective and it helps with relaxation. Another funny little side story here is there is this old folklore surrounding betony being protected by the fae or fairy folk, right? And you were supposed to leave an offering for the fae when you would go and harvest this in the wild. And so usually the offering was jelly beans, because jelly beans are bright and shiny like little jewels. They taste good. And then you would have the blessing to take the betony, and that if you, I guess, if they liked you, they would be helpful. They could help you find lost objects. So you could go there and put a petition in too to help find something that's been lost and that they supposedly would help you. But that's an old folk tale. And I just thought it was interesting because it's attached to betony. But this is one of my favorite ones. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Elderberry. So this is elderberry, and elderberry is also called pipe plant or black cider. So it used to be used for making wind instruments. So I put a little picture of a flute here. Elderberry flutes were a huge deal. And they used to use elderberry to make cribs, okay? And then they realized that once that stem dries, it creates cyanide and it was killing babies. And so a lot of the old Mother Frost German fairy tales that involve the death of babies are in these cribs. It was because of the elderberry they were using to make the cribs. So obviously they don't do that anymore, but that was a big thing. So it does have associations to Hecate. So if you do work with her, it's usually used as an offering. Another thing I like about elderberry, it's very healing, but it is for, I mean, 100 years, you could go back and look at old grimoires. It is one, this in combination with agrimony is used to prevent a liar from lying to you. And it not only will remove lies, but it'll help force out the truth. So they used to make an elderberry syrup, and they would add a little agrimony to the syrup and you would serve it to a target that you believe is lying to you, to stop them from lying and force them to tell you the truth. And so that recipe is like 100 years old. And it was just, it wasn't equal parts. It was, I would say for every half ounce elderberry, it was maybe an eighth ounce agrimony, but yeah, it was supposedly a big thing. It's also been used medicinally for respiratory illnesses. And a funny kind of interesting folklore involving elderberry is if you did not get permission from the nature spirits to harvest the wild berries, you risk being struck by lightning or electrocuted. And this goes back again, 100+ years. There are these stories of people being struck by lightning or electrocuted somehow in some weird, crazy scenario after harvesting wild elderberry. So it was just a very interesting tie into the plant. There's always these fun folklores involved with this stuff too. I love it. All right, so my favorite flower is lilac. Everybody knows how much I love lilacs. My favorite actually is white Russian double bloom lilacs, and I spent a fortune having those planted on my property, and then I left a couple months later. So Vince will enjoy them. You're welcome, Vince. Anyway, lilacs have a very sweet taste. They come originally from Persia. A lot of times, if you go to a fancy restaurant, they will use it to sprinkle in salads to give it like, some color and some, pretty presentation. Lilac tinctures are pretty popular. I've made them. A lot of people use tinctured lilac because it's a higher concentrate. If you work with Aphrodite or Anahita, who is the Persian Aphrodite, it is used as an offering for those deity. Other aspects or energies it's used for love, joy, calm. It's used for mediumship, and it's also used to help you connect to the spirit world, which is kind of the same thing, but not necessarily in a medium role. So a lot of people don't know that about lilac, that it has those traits. One of the things I like to do with lilac too, I used to do this at my Halloween parties, is I would make a fairy cake. And so basically that's just a brie wheel, a cheese brie wheel, coat it in honey, and then you just sprinkle lilac and violets. I would put violets on mine. It's very pretty. It tastes very good. Anyway, I did give you guys an oxymel recipe here. If you wanted to make an oxymel with lilac, you would take 1 cup of the flour, a half a cup of honey, a half a cup of apple cider vinegar, and just mix it all into a jar to make the oxymel. So, I mean, it's again that half honey, half vinegar, like I told you earlier for the oxymel, and then 1 cup of the flour. And then you could use that, like I said, you could use that before doing a divination or spirit work, or if you just need to calm down, you've had a bad day. Mugwort. Okay, this is my favorite herb to use in magic. This is a picture of mugwort over here. Mugwort has so many magical properties. It's also referred to as St. John's. Things that stand out about mugwort: it smells like pot. It does. It has a very strong. If somebody didn't know better, I mean, they would think that you were burning pot probably, but it is used as an offering with deities like Artemis and Diana. I put a tea here. This is a tea that I have made before divinating that really I think is very powerful. It's 1 part more mugwort to 1 part cinnamon to 1 part peppermint. So like maybe an 1/8 ounce mugwort, 1/8 ounce cinnamon, 1/8 ounce peppermint. It tastes good and it does help with divination. You can take this before sleep to help with psychic dreams, visions, connection to the divine, and purification. This is a very good purification herb. So like if you're trying to cleanse or remove something negative, mugwort is very good with that. Mugwort's good with a lot of things, but these are like the primary things. I love mugwort. I would use mugwort in everything if I could. Anyway. All right, the rose. Roses are so pretty, right? So roses are used in offerings to Aphrodite, Demeter, Isis, and we've talked about Isis and sacred sexuality. So like if you have a sex magic altar, leaving her little roses is a nice offering. The rose hips are usually used for fertility, and rose thorns are usually used for protection. Obviously, roses are used in a lot of love and glamour magic spells. Some people do break them down by color. I don't do that too much, but if that's something that you do, like red is usually with passion, white with purity, purple with intuition or divination, pink is with friendship or kindness, black is grieving, mourning process, death, not necessarily physical. It could be spiritual, like soul retrieval work. So some people do kind of color code their roses. I don't necessarily sign on for that, but to each their own. Rose water. So rose water is great for youth. It's great for love, for preserving beauty, and it does technically medicinally regenerate cells. You can find some really great high quality rose water in Indian grocery stores and even some Asian grocery stores. So if you're not good at making these things yourself, you can just go buy them at your local Asian or Indian grocery store. And rose water, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen, like rose water is used in a lot of beauty products. It really is good for skin, for maintaining that kind of youthful glow. So all right, ladies' mantle. Here's a picture of ladies' mantle here. I'm sure you guys have seen this growing on the roadside. The reason I wanted to bring up ladies' mantle, I don't use it a whole lot except for during Beltane. Beltane comes around again in May. May 1st, 2026 is the next Beltane. So there is this old tradition. It is hundreds of years old. On Beltane morning, you're supposed to scrape the dew off the petals or just take the whole leaf and rub it on your face. You put it on your face and it's supposed to preserve your youth for a year. This is one of those folk tales, folklores that has been written about by different cultures at different periods. So it kind of like definitely has something, there's something there to it because people that wouldn't have interacted or communicated were kind of using the same spell. So I've always found it interesting. You just I would just pluck the leaf and rub the leaf on my face. I don't know how you're gonna scrape the dew petals off. I mean, I guess you could, but that sounds like a lot of work. You just rub the leaf on you. But yeah, it's supposed to preserve your youth for a year. So I wanted to throw that out there because I love the folklore with ladies' mantle. Do any of you guys use ladies' mantle for anything else? No.
I've never heard of it till now.
Oh, it's like it's another plant flower herb that is kind of you can find it. Well, in Florida, I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna find it in Florida. I have to look.
Well, if not, you probably could buy it somewhere, you
Oh yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I try to find the ones that grow wild and are pretty like abundant, so like you don't have to buy things, but yeah, you could buy it. All right, yarrow. So here's yarrow. Yarrow usually is white, but it does come in different colors too. Yarrow is also called bloodwort or devil's nettle. It heals wounds, and medicinally, yarrow has been used, for years and years for helping to heal wounds. It is used as an offering to Aphrodite and the Queen of the Fae. It's used in magic for fertility, for courage, and for divination. The I Ching yarrow stalks are used for divination. That is thousands of years old, the using yarrow stalks with the I Ching. In the Victorian era, I love this little bit here. This is a real thing. In the Victorian era, you would take a yarrow stalk, you would say the name of the boy that you liked, and then you would quick stick it in your nose and pull it out. And if you got a nosebleed, it meant that he liked you too. And if your nose didn't bleed, he didn't like you. And this was an actual thing. This was an actual thing. Um, isn't that crazy? Crazy kids, man, I tell you. I mean, they were stupid way back then. I mean, every generation of kids has their stupid shit. This was theirs, but so much fun, I guess. Anyway, marriage rites. Euro is used in marriage rites. At one time, it was customary. You know how at the end, like they would throw what would they? They threw rice, and then rice turned into bird seed. Back before rice and birdseed, when the couple would walk out, it used to be yarrow. They would throw yarrow at the couple. And that was for fertility and blah, blah, blah. Also, there is an old tradition. If you put yarrow under your pillow, you would dream of your true love. And so you would probably have to do a petition too and a couple other little things. But yarrow was involved with dreaming of your true love. So, and that again, that's a very old tradition back probably when they were shoving it in their noses. I just love sharing that kind of stuff though. It's always funny. Henbane berries. I actually used to collect these dried. I actually have a box of dried henbane berries because I've used them in different poppets. So they're common in poppet works. I didn't put that in there, but I have used henbane berries when I'm loading fabric poppets or organ poppets. Again, with henbane berries, the season's going to be important. If it is a wet season, they're going to be very weak. If it is a dry season, they're going to be very strong. And the reason that's important with henbane berries is they are toxic. Now, they do lose toxicity after time, but understand if it was a very dry season, they are actually a little dangerous. So you need to be careful with some of this stuff. They do take a very long time to grow. So that's the other thing too. Like when I was collecting them, I actually wasn't growing them. I was purchasing them from somebody who was a grower. I don't have the patience. I'm just being honest. But this is one of those harder to find herbs because you do have to be very patient and they are very toxic and you do have to be very careful. But this is used in curse work, sometimes hex work, poppet work, severance work, breakup work, things like that. Oh, and thank you. Okay, places you can find these things. If you can't find them in the wild, There are 3 places I acquire my herbs from. The first one is Lucky Mojo. They're out of California. They have their own greenhouses. I trust them. I've been working with them for years and years. The second one is Star West Botanicals. Star West Botanicals is all organic. You can buy by the pound. They do a really good job of sifting the herbs, and they're also on Amazon now. And then Mountain Rose Herbs. Mountain Rose Herbs, also high quality. You're buying what you're buying. You got to be careful because sometimes people throw random shit in a bag and call it whatever. But these are the 3 that I know when I'm buying something, it is genuine, authentic. It's been sifted properly. The weight's appropriate, and I'm getting it from a reputable source. So those would be the 3 that I would recommend if you guys ever purchased any herbs to make any kind of tinctures or syrups yourselves. This is where I would go, especially if you were doing like rose syrups or something like that. They have organic roses that are high quality. So questions, that was it. I know it wasn't a very long one tonight, but I wanted to do something a little bit different and like just kind of fun and informative. What'd you guys think?
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
definitely want to make stuff, and I do want to mention it's very important to buy organic roses because when you
Yes.
go to like a grocery store and get
Yes.
roses, they're like covered in pesticides.
Oh, yes. Yes. It is very well, actually, with all these herbs. So, like, yeah, anything that you're going to eat or consume, anything that you're going to put into a tincture, a syrup, an oxymel that is going to go into the body, yeah, always make